Okay, how's it going, everybody? So we're going to read some more Karl Marx, and this is the collections of his Civil War press releases, that he, was writing in the New York Tribune, which was the most distributed newspaper in, the United States during the Civil War. So this is written in 1862. It's called Comments on the North American Events. So let's go ahead and get into this. The short campaign in Maryland has decided the fate of the American Civil War. However much the fortune of war may still vacillate between the opposing parties for a shorter or longer time. As we have already stated in this newspaper, the fight for the possession of the border slave states is a fight for the domination over the Union, and the Confederacy has been defeated in this fight, which it started under extremely favorable circumstances that are not likely ever to occur again. Maryland was rightly considered the head, and Kentucky the arm of the slaveholders' party in the border states. Maryland's capital, Baltimore, has been kept loyal up to now only by martial law. Loyal is in quotation marks. Has been kept, quote, loyal up to now only by martial law. It was a dogma, not only in the South, but also in the North, that the arrival of the Confederates in Maryland would be the signal for a popular rising in mass against, quote, Lincoln's satellites, end quote. Here it was not only a question of a military success, but also of a moral demonstration, which was expected to electrify the southern elements in all the border states and to draw them forcefully into the vortex. When Maryland, Washington would fall, Philadelphia would be menaced, and New York would no longer be safe. The invasion of Kentucky, the most important of the border states, owing to the size of its population, its situation, and its economic resources, which took place simultaneously, was considered in isolation, merely a diversion. But supported by decisive success in Maryland, it could have crushed the Union Party in Tennessee, outflanked Missouri, protected Arkansas and Texas, threatened New Orleans, and above all, shifted the theater of war to Ohio, the central state of the North, whose possession spells the subjugation of the North, just as the possession of Georgia spells that of the South. A Confederate army in Ohio would cut off the west of the northern states from the east and fight the enemy from his own center. After the fiasco of the rebels' main army in Maryland, the invasion of Kentucky, which was not pressing ahead with sufficient drive and was nowhere supported by popular sympathy, was reduced to an insignificant guerrilla attack. Even the occupation of Louisville would now only unite the, quote, Great West, end quote, the legions from Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, so that they would form an, quote, avalanche similar to that which crashed down on the South during the first glorious Kentucky campaign. The Maryland campaign has thus proved that the waves of secession lack the power to roll over the Potomac and reach the Ohio. The South has been reduced to the defensive, but offensive operations were its only chance of success. Deprived of the border states and hemmed in by the Mississippi in the west and the Atlantic in the east, the South has conquered nothing but a graveyard. One must not forget, even for a moment, that when the Southerners hoisted the banner of rebellion, they held the border states and dominated them politically. When they demanded where the territories, they have lost both the territories and the border states. Nevertheless, the invasion of Maryland was risked at a most favorable conjuncture. The North had suffered a disgraceful series of quite unprecedented defeats. The Federal Army was demoralized. Stonewall Jackson, the hero of the day. Lincoln and his government, a universal laughingstock. The Democratic Party, strong again in the North, and people expecting Jefferson Davis to become president. France and England were openly preparing to proclaim the legitimacy already recognized at home of the slaveholders. Et pur si mauvais. Et pur si mauvais in quotation marks. Reason nevertheless prevails in world history. Lincoln's proclamation is even more important than the Maryland campaign. Lincoln is a sui generis figure in the annals of history. If he has no initiative. What does that say? I'm not sure that's a mistype. FIE has no initiative, no idealistic impetus, cothernus, no historical trappings. He gives his most important actions, always the most commonplace form. Other people claim to be, quote, fighting for an idea, end quote, when it is for them a matter of square feet of land. Lincoln, even when he is motivated by an idea, talks about, quote, square feet, end quote. He sings the bravura aria of his part hesitatively, reluctantly, and unwillingly, as though apologizing for being compelled by circumstances, quote, to act the lion, end quote. The most redoubtable decrees, which will always remain remarkable historical documents, flung by him at the enemy, all look like and are intended to look like routine summonses sent by a lawyer to the lawyer of the opposing party. Legal chicaneries involved hidebound actions juris. His latest proclamation, which is drafted in the same style, the Manifesto abolishing slavery, is the most important document in American history since the establishment of the Union, tantamount to the tearing tip of the old American Constitution. Nothing is simpler than to show that Lincoln's principal political actions contain much that is aesthetically repulsive, logically inadequate, farcical in form, and politically contradictory, as is done by the English Pindars of slavery, the Times, the Saturday Review, and Tutti Quanti. But Lincoln's place in the history of the United States and of mankind will nevertheless be next to that of Washington. Nowadays, when the insignificant struts about melodramatically on the side of the Atlantic, is it no significance at all that the significant is clothed in everyday dress in the New World? Lincoln is not the product of a popular revolution. This plebeian who worked his way tip from stonebreaker to senator in Illinois without intellectual brilliance, without a particularly outstanding character, without exceptional importance, an average person of goodwill, was placed at the top by the interplay of the forces of universal suffrage, unaware of the great issues at stake. The New World has never achieved a greater triumph than by this demonstration that, given its political and social organization, ordinary people of good will can accomplish feats which only heroes could accomplish in the old world. Hegel once observed that comedy is an act superior to tragedy, and humorous reasoning superior to grandiloquent reasoning. Although Lincoln does not possess the grandiloquence of historical action, as an average man of the people, he has its humor. When foes he issued the proclamation declaring that from January 1st, 1863, slavery in the Confederacy shall be abolished, at the very moment when the Confederacy, as an independent state, decided on peace negotiations as its Richmond's Congress, at the very moment when the slave owners of the border states believed that the invasion of Kentucky by the armies of the South had made, quote, the peculiar institution, end quote, just as safe as their domination over their compatriot, President Abraham Lincoln, in Washington. Okay, yeah, so that's comments on the North American events by Karl Marx. And well, thank y'all for tuning in. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Tumblr, and Medium. All of these are Marxist. Y'all hit me up there. Y'all have a great day, and Dodata Goey.